What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Cool Colas here, and you're tuning into a new video from my channel. If you all have not gotten up to date on my videos, or maybe this is the first time that you're seeing my videos, what I would like for you all to do is to tap that subscribe button so that you get all the latest and greatest updates when it comes to my channel and everything else that I have going on before we get started. With that said, today's topic and what I want to talk to you all about is a quote that I keep hearing over and over again. This is something that I've heard a little bit in the pro-black community. I've heard people say, but I've also heard it outside the pro-black community. But of course, I'm only concerned about pro-blackness and why it's the most detrimental in this place. And before I actually say what the quote is, let me tell you what my main issue here is. There are some quotes, common sayings, phrases, etc. that people say over and over again, and I may disagree with them. And a lot of times I disagree with these quotes because I think that looking at it and considering it from the realm of pro-blackness versus just regular everyday life quotes, I think that our mindset has to be different on some of these things. So I tend to disagree from the standpoint of empowerment, justice, and pro-blackness versus maybe in some regular instance I may agree with somebody's use of that quote. Now, everything that I'm saying sounds very general, very vague, so I'm going to give you all an example of what I mean, specifically what our topic is today. I want to talk about when people say it's not important to look at who said something or the way they may have said something, but is what they're saying truthful? People saying that is the only thing that matters, is the truth. I actually tend to disagree with this from the standpoint of talking about pro-blackness and talking about black empowerment, and I'm going to tell you all why. And a lot of you all may disagree with me, and that's cool. We all are entitled to our opinions and the ways that we think about things. I'm just simply giving you the game, giving you the way that I see it and what I see, or what seems to be the issue. The first thing that I notice is that a lot of people who say this or make this quote are basically saying that people are being too emotional or maybe not being as logical as they could be because they're so focused or fixated on how they feel about the person who is saying this particular saying versus what they're actually saying. So I think that a lot of times this comment is made because they're trying to allude to the fact that people get too emotional, too caught up in their feelings, and then whatever they're stating may become not truthful or may become just a very strong opinion versus something that is actually factual. And for that reason, I can understand why people would say, don't look at who said it, don't look at the way they said it, look at whether or not it was truthful or not. Here's where I come from though. We live in an age where social media is rampant, and more important, attention is very rampant. Everybody is in the business of trying to get attention so that it can lead to other things. So in other words, so that it can lead to clout, or it can lead to money, or it can lead to some type of following where people are listening to a certain individual. With people who are in the pro-black community like myself, it's very, very, very important that we are very careful about the individuals who we speak highly of and who we say we resonate with and whatnot. So I think that if we're giving context to these things when we state them, I think that it's justified to say what matters is the truth versus who's saying it and the way they're saying it. However, I think most people are not doing that. When you go on social media, like for example, when you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, you go on on Twitter, on some social media network, and somebody says something that ends up going viral, or it says something that's shocking or thought-provoking or whatever, they're just going to share the video and what was said. They're not going to say, hey, this person who said this thing, they're known to have off-code tendencies, or they're known to have coonish tendencies, or they're known to say things that are disparaging to the black community. But I happen to agree in this instance. People typically don't do that. They just share the video and people go on and they like it, and then they end up following that person, because if they said one thing that was truthful, they're going to be seen as an individual who is trusted. I think this is very dangerous. And the reason why I think this is very dangerous is because when somebody has a pattern of being off code, or they have a pattern of just being a straight up white supremacist, like they're white, a straight up racist, then what you don't want to do is give those individuals a platform or the ability to be seen by others on your platform. And it's dangerous because of the fact that it looks like, one, you are more so collaborating or you are big upping this person, when a lot of times they may have maybe said one thing correct, but then everything else that they're saying is either disrespectful or totally untrue or a combination of both. The reason why I personally have an issue with this is because we live in an age or a time period where attention is rampant. So if individuals are seeing this person as someone to be trusted, they're going to follow them. And then they're not just going to, especially if they're a very poor discerner, they're not just going to follow that one thing that they said. They're going to start believing that the other things that they said make sense, are sensible, and then those things are going to start to resonate with them. And we're living in a time period where you have two different types of people, especially when it comes to black people or black people in the black community. You have people who are, and we're just talking about off codeness here. You have people who are off code because they just don't have the knowledge. And then you have people who are off code because they're willingly this way. And the problem with both of these things is the people who are willingly this way are going to be manipulative, and they're going to use these things to say, see, this is why I like this person because they said this, they said that, blah, 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 blah. And then you have the people who are they just don't have knowledge. That's really the big issue. They just really don't have the knowledge to be able to understand what is being said or who this person is or their track record or that type of thing. So with that being said, a lot of them are probably just going to be thrown off because they're not sure who to trust yet. And then they could end up becoming one of those individuals who is misguided. And I think that that's very dangerous. So I think there's a solution to all this. I think the very important thing that we must do and that we need to do is we need to vet the individuals who we are talking about and who we're having a discussion about. So yes, it is necessary that every time that we would quote somebody, even if they are being truthful, if it's somebody who's off code, that we're making it clear that, hey, although this person has the tendency to be off code, or this person has the tendency to say things that are strange or tendency to say things that are disrespectful or harmful to our community, what they said in this instance happens to be true. I think that's very, very important. That's where I would be okay with and agree with the idea of allowing somebody who is not necessarily pro-black or is just totally off code, totally not with us, to say something that we find to be truthful. But I think that the problem is that the context is not there and there's too much undiscernment. So I don't agree with it because all these factors kind of play into that. So it's kind of like the concept of a broken clock is right twice a day. So it's the idea that anybody could say something that you resonate with, and they could be any type of a person, right? So I could hear just give you an example, a Ku Klux Klan member speak right now, and they could say one or two things that I might actually agree with, right? But everything else they're saying is obviously going to be super racist. So of course I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to agree with them. I'm not going to big up what they're saying. So most people know not to do that either. It's just that when you have a platform and your big thing is, I want to be able to expose truth. I want to be able to tell the truth. I think the problem is that people are also getting truth mixed up with facts. In other words, the difference between truth and facts is truth is a somewhat subjective. It's something that may be true to the revelation that you may have come to, or that may be true in a particular instance. Whereas a fact is something that is going to be the same no matter what happens, no matter what context this thing is in. What you're saying is a fact. Truth may be that this thing may be truthful in a certain instance, or this thing may be factual in a certain instance, or it may be something that's provoking or needed to be said, like something that's very straightforward and in that particular instance. But it's not something that is like just the straight facts. It's something that somebody has resonated, like a revelation that they've had. So my issue is that people are using this quote a lot because they're worried about people being overly emotional and not spreading truth or not being able to tell all of the facts. And I have a problem with that because what ends up happening is you end up giving a platform for coons, white supremacists, and people who are just distracting to the movement and everything that we're trying to do as far as progression goes. Anyway, y'all, that's the whole video. That's all I wanted to say real quick. I hope y'all have a good rest of y'all's night. And if you have not hit the subscribe button yet, please do that right now, and then we can kind of get it moving. Anyway, I hope y'all have a good night once again, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.